What's up, good friends, beautiful people? It is Grizz the Barber, located at the Rolling Stones Barbershop. Here we are, Rolling Stones Barbershop, aka Plant Daddy, because I got all these plants. Anyways, one thing I want to touch on is just I remember, so I'm originally from Minneapolis, Minnesota, born and raised, North Side, and barber school was different. Somebody asked me this: how come you only cut white people's hair? That's a great question. How come I only cut white people's hair? I don't. It kind of felt like the person felt like I wasn't cutting black people's hair because I was cutting white people's hair. It felt like they seemed like because I was cutting white people's hair, I wasn't cutting black people's hair. And it's not because I don't cut black people's hair. It's just because of how polarized the world is. And the reason I say that is because I'm Minneapolis, Midwest. I really just call Minnesota the North, right? We're further north than Toronto. And so when I came here into the South, I ended up landing in a place called Salisbury. Salisbury is it's northern Carolina, right? And it's a small town, probably 2,000 people, maybe more. I could be wrong. And I'm there. I'm cutting anybody's hair. Actually, a lot of police, a lot of sheriff's office, SWAT, etc. Right? And I was surprised because I'm a black dude. I'm in the South. I'm in a small town, and all of a sudden, I got a lot of white clients that rock with me, 1,000%. To the point when I moved from Salisbury to Charlotte, I still have a handful of clients that are white clients that will drive the hour just to, one, come see about your homie, come see about Grizz, but two, come get the haircut, come check on me, congratulate me, encourage me. Dude, I love it. And so I'll say this. One time when I was in Salisbury, I remember the owner of Made Man Barbershop in Salisbury, Brian, he had stepped out for a little bit, but one of the clients, insurance guy, professional, clean, come in, just get a haircut in this old timey barbershop that I just happened to be in. And he said this to me. He said, "Man, I want you to know what you got here is really special." I was like, "Thank you." And Brian is multi-ethnic. I'll say that. Multi-ethnic. And I guess the shop I was in, a black person worked there before, maybe a Latina woman. Brian has Lumbee background. And so I didn't know how rare that shop was. A white boy was cutting hair there too. I didn't know how rare it was. And he said, I don't think you know how rare what you're doing is. And I was listening. And he was kind of trying to say what you guys got going here is rare, but what you're doing is very rare. And I was like, okay, question. I get the feeling that if you black, you get your hair cut by black people. And if you white, you get your hair cut by white people. And if you Hispanic, you get your hair cut by Hispanic people. And he said, exactly. He said, you cut everybody's hair. And everybody come to you. And I just want you to know how rare it is, man. How much of an encouragement this is. White guy, South, telling me, homie, what you got is so rare, man. And it's going to go so far. And that was it. And so when people say, why do you only cut white people's hair? It's because if I cut a white person's hair, white people typically get their hair cut by white people. And historically, black people and whatever. And so being a barber that is versatile and cutting everyone's hair is such a gift that I didn't know, something God gave me. I remember when I was a kid, my grandfather, the original Rolling Stone, right? I remember sitting down in the barbershop in my granddad's speakeasy basement barbershop. And he said to me, he had just cut two of his white friends' hair. And I don't know if they were military buddies or poker buddies or blues buddies, but these were just two old white dudes. And when you seen them talking, you could see the spark light up in their eyes. Like these dudes are like 60, and you could see the spark, like they were 17 years old, like pre-war, pre-Korean War, pre-whatever. You could see the spark in their eyes. Like I could see that 17-year-old. I could see the life they lived just playing, and that moment just happy to get a haircut and genuinely friends with my grandfather. Now, mind you, my grandfather is from Eufaula, Alabama. I don't know how much more segregated and southern and racist you can get, but the fact that my grandfather was from a town and he knew real racism, but was able to make friends with people from other cultures and ethnicities was beautiful. I mean, you know, a cookout. My grandma, Arkansas, grandfather, Alabama, we would have a cookout in our backyard at the drop of a dime, and then our Mexican neighbors would be passing food over the fence with us, and truly like family. And we had some Vietnamese, no, Hmong neighbors who would come and ask my granddad to weld stuff. Spoke no English, but would come over, and my granddad had no problem, right? White neighbors, black neighbors, and it was very multicultural. And I would just see how this barber thing influences people, you know, through my grandfather, who was a lion. And I'm so in this moment after my granddad, his friends leave, he cut their hair, and I'm sitting in this little barber chair watching him clean up, and I'm like, Granddad, how do you got white friends? Like, how do you have white friends? And I said, none of that. Like, and I'm like 11, 12. Not unbeknownst to me, in about a few days, my cousin's gonna ask me to cut his hair, and it's gonna completely change the trajectory of my life in that same chair. But I'm like, Granddad, how do you cut white people's hair? Like, why? In my mind, you're from the South, bro. You're from Alabama, dude. Like, I would think you hate white people, you know? And my granddad kind of stopped from brushing off his clippers, and he was like, yeah, but I'm good at it. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, but like, I was like, whose hair do you like cutting better? Who are you better at? Black people or white people? He was like, nah, I'm good at black people's hair. I grew up, brothers, cousins, good at it. He was like, but I'm better. I like cutting white people's hair. And I looked at my granddad like he betrayed Malcolm X. I was like, nigga, what? He was like, I will cut the shit out of a white person's head. I would. I put a dope haircut on any white person. I cut, the majority of the people I cut is black. It's family. You know what I mean? But my white friends show up because they know I will put a press on them. And it is what it is. And I say that because in barber school, we were always guided to just cut the hair we have. If you're white, cut white hair. If you're black, cut black hair. If you're Hispanic, cut Hispanic hair. But none of us in barber school, we ain't give a damn about none of that. Shout outs to Brian, one of the dopest barbers. Shout out to Dex. Shout out to Sammy. Shout out to Simon. You know, Simon of Goodfellas. Shout out all these different barber brothers back home in Minneapolis, right? John, right? Cut It Out Barber. Man, so many different barbers I could. Wolf, right? But in barber school, we taught each other. Mexican, Dominican, Puerto Rican, white, dirty white, black, African, native, Asian, Hmong. Shout out to Fat Boy Cuts, by the way. We would teach each other, old and young. And that's what I love about being a barber. It's transcendent of people's expectations and boundaries. It is. And it's rare. This barber thing is slowly going extinct. And if it does one day, I'm honored to be a part of it. Honored to be a part of it. And so how I learned to cut white hair, because my teacher wasn't helping me. Our instructor was not going to teach a black person how to cut white people's hair. Don't know why. But one night I'm at a homeless shelter because I'm so dirt poor. I'm poor, dirt poor. And I just so happened to eat at a food shelf, and one of these guys at the food shelf said, man, I got a job interview tomorrow. Maybe I can get my own space. And I'm like, man, well, you need a haircut. He's like, yeah, but I live in a homeless shelter. And I was like, okay. And I was like, how about this? Tomorrow I'll bring my clippers and we'll go cut your hair at the homeless shelter. I'll walk over there. It was like a block away. And he's like, but they ain't gonna let you cut my hair at a homeless shelter. I was like, I know I got a gift to speak to people, especially when you want to do something good for somebody. And so we did. We walked over to the homeless shelter and I said, hey, I'm here to cut his hair. And they're like, oh, you're the barber. And I'm like, yeah, I'm the barber. And they're like, we've been waiting for you. And I'm like, waiting for me? And they're like, yeah, Gary called and he said you were going to come, but it's been a couple months. We didn't hear back. We just figured you're not coming. Turns out this homeless shelter had a barber who was going to come cut some people's hair, and they thought it was me. Unbeknownst to me, just a barber school kid, they needed all this verification that he put in, and they just thought it was me. So they got me. They had clipper spray, had gloves, they had everything I needed. And so I sat there that night cutting probably 10 people's heads that night. 10. I'll be lucky in barber school if I get 1 or 2 people a day. 1 or 2. At this homeless shelter, I could swim through people. Native, black, white, freaking Somalian. You got people coming from other states, people from coming other countries, Japanese. This homeless shelter is why I started counting countries where people from, because people matter. Ethnicity matters. Stories matter. The food, the stories, the music, the customs, the faiths that have survived people as they went from one country to another, barely speaking English, and all they got is maybe a Bible or a diary or some recipes or the name that their parents gave them, or the refugee camp or whatever it is, and it's just them. These stories matter. And as a barber, I'm honored that when people sit in my chair, and I know a lot gets lost in translation, but it matters. It matters so much. It really does. And it just so happened at some point in the night, this white dude was like, hey man, could you like cut my hair just like a 2 up top and then like a 1 on the side and maybe a little bit lower and all that? And I was like, nah man, the same discouragement I got from barber school, don't cut white people's hair, just stay away from white people's hair, is what I was told. And that same discouragement, I was like, nah man, I can't, dude. And I was too ashamed to say I can't cut white people's hair. I can't. But I was about to say, like, I can't do straight hair. And everyone, this was the language at barber school. I only do curly, I only do coarse, I only do straight. This is what we were taught. And he was like, and I stopped and I was like, what did you say? What? He was like a 2 up top, maybe a 1 on the side, 1.5. You could blend it. If you want to go low, you can. And I was like, bro, that's a fade. He was like, yeah. I didn't know if I could say that to you though. I didn't know if I could say that to you though. I was like, get in this chair, bro. Get in this chair. And I blended homie up. He just wanted to fade like any other person. And I did it and it was dope. It was, and after that, ever since then, I was never afraid to cut white people's hair or straight hair. And I get to school and my instructor is pissed. However, I was good. And so, and that opened the door for me to do Mexican hair and native hair, Italian people, bro, Asian people. And so a lot of times people go, why do you only cut white people's hair? Because we're always taught it's either this or that. It's either or. You can't do both. And so it's really our culture. It's a reflection of racism. It's a reflection of tribalism even, you know, but it's a gift. It is very rare for a black person to cut white people's hair, but not as rare as it used to be. So that's why, good friends, I love you all. I'm so thankful to be a barber. I'm thankful that some of you consider me. Feel free, stop by Rolling Stones Barbershop, Matthews, North Carolina, south side of Charlotte. GrizzTheBarber, man, I love you. Peace.